Now your Bibles shall open with me, please, to 1 Corinthians and chapter number 4. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, and I read verse 1 and 2. Let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Christ, and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. And we have spent the last couple of months looking at the 20 times the Apostle Paul uses the word mystery in the Pauline letters. We have gone through each and every one of them, one by one, line by line. Then we went back and saw the 7, 8, or 9 mystery doctrines, depending on how you count them, mysteries that are revealed by the Apostle Paul. We have seen that a mystery is not anything that is necessarily mysterious, odd, strange, far-fetched, but rather a mystery is a Bible truth or a Bible doctrine that is heretofore unrevealed. It is something that has not been revealed up until this point. Now, Paul the Apostle states in 1 Corinthians 4:1, and I think that what I have before me is the definition of rightly dividing the word of truth. And you have two men that are at opposite sides of theology. Their teaching's 180 degrees out of phase. Over here you have one man that believes you can be saved today and then lose your salvation tomorrow and die and go to hell. And over here is a man that believes in fatalistic predestination, and that if you're ordained to be saved, then you will be saved. You don't need to seek the Lord. You don't need to call upon the Lord. You will be saved. And it is obvious that these two ideas, these two theological ideas, are the exact opposite. They are so opposite that both cannot be right. If one is right, the other's wrong. And yet both men say, I'll have you to know that I'm rightly dividing the word of truth. I am rightly dividing the word of truth. You can't be. You can't be rightly dividing the word, and this man over here say he's rightly dividing the word and be preaching exactly 180 degrees opposite one of another. You're saying this and he is saying that. I think before us in 1 Corinthians 4:1 we have the definition, the walking definition of rightly dividing the word of truth. Let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. The born-again believer, the minister of the gospel, is in stewardship of the mysteries of God. Now somebody says, what are those mysteries? They are the 20 mysteries that I've spent the last 2 months reading through every verse and expounding on every verse on the Bright Spot Hour, where we find the word mystery. That is the mystery revealed by Paul. 20 times Paul uses this word mystery. 9 doctrines are revealed by the Apostle Paul, and he states on at least 2 occasions that these things were kept secret and not revealed in other ages and in other days as they are now revealed. The New Testament minister is in stewardship of these mysteries. I am in stewardship of these mysteries. And Paul goes on to say, moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. It is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. And the faithfulness here, in the light of the context, is not faithfulness in general, but would have to be faithfulness in relation to the revelation of these mysteries. Faithful to the revelation of the matter of the mystery, what Paul has revealed in the Pauline letters. Now, the passage states that you and I are stewards. Now, stewardship will be defined from the context and also from various places that we find in the Bible. I find in Luke 12 and verse number 42, who then is that faithful and wise steward? In my text in 1 Corinthians 4:2, moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. So on 2 occasions I find the matter of faithfulness and the matter of stewardship are used together. They are used in conjunction. The faithfulness of the steward, the faithfulness that the steward employs. Now, a steward would be, by definition, would be one that is a manager or a trustee. A steward is a man that is placed in trust. So, if I am in a position of stewardship, then I am put in trust with something. Now, if a man were to give me his bank account and make me a trustee of that bank account, then that bank account, however large or small it is, I would be a trustee of that, and it would be incumbent upon me, it would be a requirement of me to manage that account and to ensure that that account is not stolen from, that it is not liquidated, that it is not squandered, that it is not put at risk. For instance, let's say that I am put in trust of a bank account, and there is an afflicted individual that is the trustee or the receiver of that trust account. And the cost of bringing in professional care and having the invalid individual cared for, and it would be incumbent upon me to be sure that the checks were written to the individuals that are administering care, that they not be paid more or less than the agreed to amount under contract, and that I would call upon this invalid individual to ensure that the house is clean, that they are clean, that they've been bathed and kept clean, and that their medication has been given, and there's a massive responsibility that is placed upon the individual that becomes a trustee, a steward. A steward is a trustee. In the business world, when my company is called upon to list a piece of property for sale, and we handle trust money, we have a trust account, an escrow account, and somebody puts $1,000 deposit on a piece of real estate, and I'm under state law required to have that money in that trust account within 48 hours, and to be able to give an accounting of where that money is at all times. And then when we go to the closing, I bring that money with me, because it's not my money, never has been my money. That money belongs to the individual that wrote the earnest check to make a deposit on a piece of real estate. And if the transaction lasts for 30 days, I've had some transactions last for 2.5 years. And for 2.5 years, I was a steward of that escrow money. And I had to be able to give an account at any time and at all times of where that money was. I was placed as a steward of what belonged to someone else. So whenever a steward is placed in trust with something, the logical question that would follow is what is the steward put in trust with? Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. Stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. There is no question that the matter of stewardship here must be in relation to the mystery. The minister, the New Testament minister, is placed in stewardship of the mysteries. Let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. Now, whether or not the New Testament minister is aware of the fact that he is placed in stewardship of these mysteries, he still is placed in stewardship of these mysteries. He may say, well, I've never heard anything about that. Well, that responsibility rests upon your shoulders for not reading the Bible. It certainly doesn't relieve you or alleviate you of your responsibility as a New Testament minister. You are still under obligation. The obligation of stewardship whether or not you faithfully discharge or faithfully employ this area of your ministry and this area of your work. Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary defines steward like this: a man employed in great families to manage the domestic concerns, to superintend the other servants, to collect the rents or income, to keep the accounts, and so on. The reference that he gives is Genesis chapter 15, verse 2, through Genesis chapter 43 and verse number 19, where we find a number of men that are employed as stewards. You have a great man over a house, and the demands upon his time and labor are such that the menial task of making sure that the money is coming in, making sure that the deposits are made, making sure the checks are being written, and those checks are being sent out, the bills are being paid, to ensure that the other hired hands on the farm or on the compound are all doing their work, and that all the work is being done, that in the spring the fields are plowed and sown, and in the fall the fields are reaped and harvested, and that all the foodstuffs are put up, that there's enough wood to take us through the wintertime. The steward becomes responsible to ensure the proper running and the proper governing of the rich man's house. So the steward in the New Testament ministry is to manage the proclamation and the dissemination of the mysteries of God. Now it becomes quite obvious that one is not capable of doing this if they are unaware of what they are, or they are unconcerned about what the mysteries are and have no concern about finding out what these mysteries are. That's why I've given so much time on the Bright Spot Hour in the last 2 months to looking at every time the word mystery is used by the Apostle Paul in the Pauline epistles. It's found 20 times. 20 times I read that word mystery in the New Testament. Now, whether or not you have any interest in understanding this is utterly beside the point, but it doesn't relieve you and me of our responsibility to know what it is.